and you're listening to the Air Raid Hour, a Buffalo Fanatics video experience.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Air Raid Hour presented by the Buffalo Fanatics and Symbol. Before we get things started today, shout out to D Handsome and Ombre Law. Both these guys were in here at like super early. Like we're talking 2-3 hours before the tip off of this show. So kudos to them. Ombre Lob coming in saying, I just noticed the Bills tickets just tripled in price. We're going to talk a little bit of stadium to start the show today. We got Kobe, Juan Kenobi in the house. We got Jay Snake in the house saying go Bills. Of course, Pete Bonicker in saying what's up Mafia. Josh Clark coming in saying dilly dilly. Nice little beer here. It's not a Bud Light, but you know, it'll do. Randy Hardman in the house. Corey Buffalo making an appearance. Corey stops in every once in a while in the offseason. Nice to see you, Corey. Obviously Lawrence Owen in the house as well. He will be joining us at around 8:40 to talk some Indianapolis Colts. And I was going over the Indianapolis Colts depth chart. Some really good players on this football team, but I got to ask Lawrence about the depth. One of the things I'm jealous about for the Buffalo Bills, we're going to start talking about linebackers today, is just I think we take for granted the depth of this football team. There are some positions on the Colts that look a little bit thin, and I want to ask Lawrence about that.
I want to ask him about the Colts draft as well, because you know how much we spend in researching and putting into the draft. I mean, they started out hot, I felt like, and then faded in this draft, but maybe he has a different opinion. So we'll see.
Dude, they took my boy Michael Strawn in the 6th round. What do you mean they faded? They took the biggest dude. They took the biggest wide receiver in the draft. But we got
the self-proclaimed next Calvin Johnson.
We got Brian Adams, Kim Boomhauer, Chris S, AK Cash, Jason Humbert. We got Namdi in the house. Truth of Hearts in the house. Joe Miller in the house. Kevin Arnold, Kosh, Chris Janke, Bobby Ray is in the house. So we got a whole bunch of you in here, and let's get started with the football stadium because reports came out, and I know Rico touched on Friday a little bit. The Buffalo Bills are looking to build a new stadium. It's most likely going to be in Orchard Park. And it really made me think about this question today. Do Bills fans even want a new stadium? I understand all the reasons for a new stadium. You know, you want the luxury suites. You want maybe a retractable roof or a dome. Some people might want to move it downtown. There are a number of different factors about why people want a new stadium. However, they pumped $200-300 million into this football stadium. The actual aesthetics, everything around the stadium, the game day experience for the fans. Then they pumped even more money into building really good locker rooms and a state-of-the-art training facility and practice fields for these players. Like someone said, like, oh, the Bills want to attract free agents. They need a new stadium. Not really. The Bills have probably a top 5 gym, top 5 workout area, top 5 locker room in the league. So my question is, like, do we even need a new stadium? Like, what's the point of spending $1 billion on something? Is it necessary? Is it needed? And people in the comment section, let me know your thoughts as well. Randy, you had a really good comment on Twitter. Post it in the comment section. I'll share it about why exactly we do need a new stadium.
Yeah, Nick Osborne on Twitter responded to you about, like, if you build a new stadium, are you going to be able to sink it in like you have now? Which is kind of a unique feature. Obviously, it makes things a little bit more difficult in the kicking game and things like of that nature. But there's some uniqueness to the stadium in that regard that you probably aren't going to have if you build a new stadium. Likely, it's not going to be sunken in. As far as the location is concerned, I don't live there, right? So it doesn't really affect me as far as that. But I actually think it's the right move to leave it in Orchard Park. Just for traffic, for tailgating, for the vicinity, proximity, I should say, to the field house and the facilities. And I know that's not a deal breaker, but it is kind of nice to have them all in the same area, and it makes it easier to get in and out of the games. I was talking to you before we went on about how the Panthers Stadium here in North Carolina is in the middle of uptown Charlotte, and it's an absolute nightmare getting in and out of the games. There's no cohesive tailgate scene. It's like parking here and there. Like it's just it's not like the scene that I would want. Versus NC State, my college team, their stadium is right pretty much on the North Carolina State fairgrounds, location, which is essentially a wide open field of parking and tailgating, and it's more akin to like what the Bills have now. And that, to me, that's way better. So as far as location, that's that. As far as the stadium itself, I don't know. Like what could you do more, I guess, to renovate? Like, I know Joe mentioned like, hey, we can't afford luxury suites. So it's like, is that something we really need? Well,
and Joe also came in and said, if not a new stadium, at least major upgrades, thinking like the landing ship on top of Soldier Field, Lambeau Field comes to mind. Regardless, it should stay in Orchard Park, keep it open air. That's what I'm saying. Like, what?
so
Just take another 400 million. Take another 400 million and do it.
So would the
That's way more
major
cost
upgrade,
effective.
would the major upgrade investment be, one, it would be more cost effective, but are you thinking that maybe we would lose seating? Would they need to add more space for seating? Because I know it is tight in there, and I mean, there's a ton of things they would do. But I also think that, maybe, if they do make a new stadium and they kind of do like a Yankee Stadium situation where they have it basically in the old parking lot of the old stadium, and they essentially make where the old stadium was the new parking lot, and kind of make it a little bit wider, a little bit more comfortable, if you will, then maybe it's worth it. So I look, I don't live there. I know Joe's been a season ticket holder forever. He had great opinions on it when he talked to Joe Marino. I don't really care so much about that, whether it's new or renovated. I do care that, from afar, that it makes sense to keep it in Orchard Park.
Yeah.
And as far as it being dome or not, people are going to say, well, you can have more events there. Well, the KeyBank, you're going to have your concerts there and all. Like, you're probably not going to have concerts and things like that at a 70,000, 80,000 seat facility. Like, not likely. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you will, but not
maybe
likely.
maybe we can land Garth Brooks in December instead of August. Maybe the Rolling Stones will come in November instead of July. That's what you're talking about.
I'll say this. Carter Finley Stadium, where NC State plays, is right next door to a PNC Arena, where the Hurricanes play, and also where NC State basketball plays. Every single concert that comes to town in Raleigh is played in PNC Arena, which is like 19,000, 20,000. There's nothing in Carter Finley Stadium. That place holds 60,000. It's purely used for football. That's it. So, like, I don't think that argument holds a ton of water. Now, if you want to make the argument like we're about to make about better play on the field for having a dome, then I'm all for that, for the football argument.
100%. Before we get to that, though, a couple people, Chris S. coming in saying, isn't the NFL forcing them? Yeah, pretty much Roger Goodell's been saying for the past decade, like, the Bills need a new stadium. Why? Because the NFL likes their shiny new toys. I think Corey Buffalo said that before. Kosh coming in saying, damn right, we want a new stadium, mostly for the memorabilia gain from tearing down the Ralph. 100%.
I've got pieces of the old New Era field from.
I will. I got the field turf, and I will have some bleachers. Chris Janke says, why spend billions when you can make millions? But Goodell wants us to get one. Ombre Lob says, Corey Buffalo, like I said, shiny new toy. But it's, at the end of the day, like Bobby was talking about, he's afraid, the Buffalo Bills will get moved. But, and then Joe comes in and says, if it gets done right, hotels, convention center, shopping mall, shopping, they can make it serious all year destination.
That's true.
I don't know if the money's there in Western New York for that. Like, that seems to be the trend of where things are going. Gillette started this trend where they built it in Foxborough and they built, Patriots Way around it. Chicago, who just put the spaceship on top of their stadium, now are bidding for the horse track in the suburbs of Chicago to build a complex. Arizona did that with Westgate. The Dallas Cowboys have done that. We've gone from the downtown stadiums, and now research has shown like it doesn't help downtown areas. You mentioned it before. Parking's a joke. All these things are a joke. Tailgating's a joke. No one wants to go there. You've seen a suburban push for these stadiums. And that's why I'm not surprised that we're talking about Orchard Park as opposed to downtown Buffalo. But if you're not moving the stadium to downtown Buffalo, I just don't get why you build a new one. Like, I just don't understand it. This is taxpayer dollars. Like, this is the people who live in Buffalo's hard-earned money. And now they're bringing in Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones's company to come do this. And it's going to be really funny. Like, I can't wait for Jerry Jones' company to come in and realize, like, PSLs ain't going to work in Buffalo. You're going to have a hard time selling out luxury suites in Buffalo. You're going to have a hard time drawing the number of people you need to keep restaurants and bars and hotels occupied year round in Orchard Park. It's going to be a rude awakening for this company when it comes time to start really planning the nuts and bolts of a new stadium in Orchard Park. Save everyone the time, save everyone the money, take the $500 million that the NFL and Terry Pagula can probably swallow on their own, and just upgrade what's already there. Mm-hmm. The only way they should build a new stadium is if they're building a dome or a retractable roof. That's the only reason, in my opinion.
And I find it interesting, the research around downtown versus non-downtown. And for hockey teams, for basketball teams, it makes total sense when you have a 20,000 seated indoor dome that doesn't have a huge footprint that you can actually use year round. But for a football stadium, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Right now, teams do it maybe because they have to, because of where they feel like they have to put the state, whatever, right? There are various reasons to do it, but I'm with you. There seems like also if you keep it where it is, then you actually maybe have a better footprint for the entire, like for the region of Buffalo, Orchard Park, Hamburg, wherever. Joe says there are multi-million-dollar homes in the Lake, NOP, and Elma. There's money.
I'm not going to disagree. I used to valet at Manja's, but here's what I'm going to say. One of the things that makes the Buffalo Bills what they are is the fan base. And if you start trying to turn it into Gillette Stadium, I went to Gillette Stadium. You know what the first thing I saw when I walked into Gillette Stadium was? A margarita bar, a martini bar. Like, those are the first things you see when you walk into these stadiums. I walked into to Heinz Field and I saw like a Mongolian grill. Buffalo is known for having a diehard fan base where even if you don't go to the playoffs for 17 years, they're still going to sell out the state. They're still going to sell out the stadium. They are still going to buy your merchandise, buy your gear, believe in whatever you're selling them, whether you're winning 3 games or whether you're winning 15 games. Buffalo fans are going to buy what you sell. If you turn it into a niche thing, you have to have money to be a Bills fan. You have to have money to go to games. You have to have money to go around the stadium. Because if they build that center around the stadium, they ain't going to let people smash themselves through tables. They ain't going to let Pinto Ron cook on his car. They're not going to do that stuff. You already saw this year what the Buffalo Bills tried to do with Tailgate Way, and there was nobody there. Or 2 years ago with Tailgate Way, and there was nobody there. You want to alienate a fan base real quick? Try to turn it into Patriot Way. Try to turn it into Westgate like they have in Arizona. You're going to lose fans in the long run. And that diehard fan base is going to start to slowly deteriorate over time.
Yeah. I mean, look, I see a little bit of mix of this at NC State tailgate, right? You've got the students, right? Which are kind of like what you would associate with, like the primary Bills tailgate scene, right? The fun, the drinking, all that stuff. And then you've got a few guys, the big donors who are parked super close to the stadium and they're like too cool for school type of thing. And they're in the Vaughn Towers, and like, it thankfully hasn't gotten to the point where it's turned the other way yet. But at the NFL level, I could potentially see that happening. Happening, even though the Bills, for me, kind of, like you said, live more.
1 second. Like whatever mod timed out Joe. I don't know why you did it. Please don't do that again. I think we all know Joe here. I don't know what he would have said that would have got him timed out or his comments deleted. So if you're a mod, please make sure you're not doing that, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that too, Joe.
We don't we don't do that. We don't touch the controls during the show. So that wasn't the two of us.
Yep. But like I was saying, the Bills tailgate scene is more of a college feel, and you'd like to see it that kept. You don't want to see it turn the other way. So I guess step one in ensuring that probably, I don't know.
New rule. Stop timing people out. We're not timing people out at all. Period. I don't care if they're threatening to kill your mother in the comment section. We're not timing people out anymore. Thank you.
Yep. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. We can move on.
All right, let's move on. And I apologize to you, Dave. I kept saying that in the comment section. I wanted to address it.
No,
We
that's
do
good.
have Lawrence coming on at 8:40, so let's make sure we shift now to the thing we want to talk about today, and that's linebacker. Now, big time on I think everyone's mind right now is the linebacking core, and with the linebacking core, it's Tremaine Edmunds. We did a show last offseason that said, like, oh, is this Tremaine Edmunds' chance to break out and be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate? Oh, is Tremaine Edmunds a future Hall of Famer? Because if he takes that next step and starts to become a perennial, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, because he takes that next step, he's so young and he's going to collect those score stats and Pro Bowls for years and years to come. Then he went and he got hurt and he didn't have the best season. So it's sort of like he's better than Dawson Knox. Don't get me wrong. He's way better than Dawson Knox. But it seems like every year we're having that Dawson Knox conversation with Tremaine Edmunds, like, when's it his time to take the next step? When's it his time to take the next step? So is this a make or break year for Tremaine Edmunds? I mean, he's fully healthy along with Matt Milano. Starlota Lele is back. We've added a lot of length, a lot of strength to this defensive line. Mm-hmm. And like, is this the year he finally does make that leap?
Yeah. I mean, I think I would have said 2022, but here's the thing that I think will help him make the leap. I think having Jerry Hughes there, assuming Jerry Hughes is not, we don't move on from him, which I don't think we will. They're not going to ask Tremaine necessarily to necessarily step up and be a vocal leader of the defense yet. And we talked about this on the last show, right? He isn't like the most rah guy, right? You've got guys like Poyer and Hyde and Jerry Hughes on the roster who are kind of like the leaders of the defense right now. Let Tremaine focus on football. Let Tremaine focus on rebounding after last year, getting obviously fully past the shoulder injury, coming in, knowing he's got Matt next to him, right? And knowing that this defense has a chip on their shoulder this year. And let's see how he does when he's not asked to do more than just really play football and kind of be the communicator on the defense. As he takes that step, and assuming he does take that step this year, then maybe in subsequent years, if like Jerry's gone, then Tremaine steps up more as like kind of the actual emotional leader of the defense. But to me, I don't think that's where you need him to be yet. I think you just need him to focus on football. And if he does that and he's mentally past all the things he needed to get past last year, and again, remembering he's only 23, I think it is, I don't know if I would call it a make it or break it year for him, but I do think that he needs to play better in 2021 than he did in 2020. If he's not an all-pro, I'm not going to be like bent out of shape about it, right? I just want to see him play better and really man the middle of that defense with confidence, make a few splash plays, which we didn't really see a ton from him last year as we were kind of hyping him up as a DPOY candidate. But maybe we were a year early. Maybe, maybe we're a year early. Maybe we're a little overzealous in that. And I don't know that he's going to be a DPOY candidate, but he certainly could be a Pro Bowl candidate again this year if he takes, what he's learned his first couple of years in the league and really just kind of moves forward with that. Yeah. So I'm confident that he'll have a good year.
With the success that our team is probably going to have, and with the numbers he'll probably put up, whether he's like, he's going to put up good numbers. Like we're going to have this conversation when we talk about Tyrell Adams in a little bit. Like there's that Preston Brown sort of vibe to it. Preston Brown always led the Buffalo Bills in tackles, but that didn't mean he was a good football player. Like Tremaine Edmunds is going to get his, and he's going to break probably the triple-digit tackle number. And he'll probably chip in 3 or 4 sacks, a couple of interceptions here and there. He's going to have enough numbers, and the Bills are going to have enough success for him to make the Pro Bowl. That doesn't necessarily make him the better player. Of all the players on the Buffalo Bills defense, if we want to get this defense back where it needs to be, if we want to get over the Kansas City hump and get to the Super Bowl, who needs to have that leap more, do you think? Does it need to be AJ Epinesa? Does it need to be Ed Oliver? Or does it need to be Tremaine Edmunds? Which of those 3 guys needs to be the guy to take that Josh Allen type of leap? Josh Allen? I don't know.
It was an alien type of leap, wasn't it?
Yeah. That out of this world type of leap to put this defense over the top. Which one of those 3 guys?
It's not Epinesa. I'll say that off the bat. It's not him. Because they've got a number of guys there that are already going to contribute, whether it's Addison if he's still on the team, Hughes. They did draft Rousseau and Basham, so I don't think it's Epinesa. I'll say that. Out of Oliver and Edmunds, I would say it's Edmunds probably, right? Because of the importance of those two linebackers in McDermott's defense, really critically important. Stopping the run obviously became an issue for us at times last year. Coverage against tight ends, we'll see if he can, continue to do that and improve on that. But he's the middle of that defense, that linebacker in Sean McDermott's 4-3, the Luke Kuechly position, right? I think it's Edmunds. Now, Oliver, I think probably less so, because I think we are all, most of us are aware of the fact that he was playing out of position last year, and there is some justification there built into maybe why he wasn't statistically as high last year. But this year with Starr back, I think Ed's going to be right there in the middle and be a force. So it's Edmunds, I think, is number one. Oliver to a lesser extent, because I think we do kind of already know what he's capable of based on sort of the end of his rookie year and him playing out of position last year. And then Epinesa to me is a distant third. I don't think at all AJ Epinesa should be considered like a key cornerstone in 2021 to whether or not this team can make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Steve Lynn coming in saying if Edmunds can take away Kelsey, we get over Kansas City. I don't know if it's Edmunds would be the one that would take away Kelsey. The interesting thing, and cover one was the first one to sort of make the speculation, is that if the Buffalo Bills are, added mostly to their defensive line and even added a couple more linebackers, a guy that we're going to talk about next in Tyrell Adams, and didn't do much to their secondary, a guy who might be utilized more in a different role next year could be a Matt Milano. He could be used in that Shaq Thompson role, be given more coverage duties, maybe more man-to-man coverage duties or zone coverage duties. However it is that Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott want to sort of, put him out there. So if it would be anyone, it would be Matt Milano, but he can't do that unless Tremaine Edmunds steps up and helps to shut down the run. We got Lawrence coming in from the waiting room saying if the D-line can't hold their gaps, it doesn't matter how good the linebackers are, they won't be able to fly free and make plays. And that was the issue the Buffalo Bills had last year. Quentin Jefferson was playing one tech. Ed Oliver was playing one tech. Tremaine Edmunds was playing with an insane injury. Matt Milano was playing through an insane injury. This defense had a lot of faults last year, much like the offensive line. They were dealing with some things. Offensive line was dealing with the scheme shift. Offensive line was dealing with injuries. Defense was dealing with the lack of star, the lack of a one tech, and some massive injuries at linebackers. So health, just straight up health, could be what they need just to take that leap heading into next season. But let's move on now to two other guys that I want to talk about. And we look at the Buffalo Bills depth chart here at linebacker. So we got the two guys. Buffalo ran nickel more than anybody in the National Football League last year. So the majority starters are Tremaine Edmunds and Matt Milano. If things hold steady, their base 43 strong side linebacker is going to be AJ Klein. But there's a new versatile depth piece, a guy I think is mostly probably, despite his contract and all those things, I think this guy's a lock to make the roster based on his production last year, Tyrell Adams. But there is some competition at the depth spot. Tyrell Dodson comes back after flashing a little bit. He's been with this team for 2 years now. Markel Lee, Joe Giles-Harris, who we just signed, and Mike Bell. And then you have some special teams only players in Tyler Matakevich and Andre Smith. So my first question is this. Tyrell Adams, 125 tackles last year as a 34 inside linebacker in Houston. But is this the Preston Brown type of impact? A guy who just played on a really bad defense, but put up really good numbers because guys were getting past the defensive line and were just there for him to tackle, but it was 8-9 yards downfield. Are we overhyping Tyrell Adams and his maybe his possible impact on the 2021 Buffalo Bills?
I will answer that question, but let's put up Jeff's super chat first.
Would you look at this? Jeff King coming in hot.
Love Jeff here at Fanatics. He's always a huge supporter. So Jeff, man, always appreciate that. It's awesome. He says, I want some Dane Jackson, some AJ Epinesa, and some Ed Oliver. Would definitely set this party off right. Well. And this is the point I think we were making about being in his drafts, right? We know how good Bean has been in getting the cap in order. We know how
Mhm.
good Bean has been in bringing in selective free agents and then panning out for the most part.
Mhm.
And he's been fairly good, has had a fairly good hit rate on his draft success with guys like Allen, Edmunds. Obviously, we've seen flashes from Singletary. We've seen flashes from Knox. We expect all of these guys, because of the faith we have in Brandon Bean, to hit, and they won't all hit. But Oliver and Epinesa, I really think have huge potential to be impact
Mhm.
players on this team. And Dane Jackson as a dark horse, the Bills didn't even address CB2 in the draft. They didn't address CB2 in free agency. They signed or they drafted Wild Goose late, which okay, fine. I know Dane Jackson was a late draft pick, and they signed Elijah Griffin as a UDFA. So the talk of Bean and hyping up, I'll call it hyping up Dane Jackson in the offseason and mentioning him by name is real. Like, they have
Mhm.
faith in him. So
Yeah.
let's see what happens. And AJ and Ed Oliver, I think of those three, Ed Oliver is going to have the biggest impact. And you've got a nice young core of players that you're starting to build, knowing that you've had some age on that roster, especially on the D line with guys like
Mhm.
Hughes and Starr and obviously they cut Quentin Jefferson, but you had some age there. So I
Yeah.
like that. Great comment from Jeff.
Yeah.
Let's hope it pans out.
I mean, you look at this defense. I just annotated it down. I'm looking at players who have probably maxed out who they are as a player, right? The goal for them now is to maintain for the course of their career how they're playing. Starloto Lele, he's probably maxed out his talents. I know he looks like he shedded some pounds, added some more agility to his game. That's whatever. But if you're Starloto Lele, you're just looking to maintain for a couple more years. Jerry Hughes, you're just looking to maintain the rest of your career. You've hit your ceiling. I would say even as young as he is, a guy like Trey White, for Trey White, it's about maintaining the rest of his career more than it is about getting like better. And then Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. There aren't a lot of tapped out players on this defense, guys who are just looking to maintain. The rest of the players in this defense are all ceiling players. AJ Epinesa, Ed Oliver, Tremaine Edmunds. I would probably put Matt Milano on the side of tapped out too, whereas he just wants to maintain what he's at. Like Tremaine Edmunds, Dane Jackson. I'm gonna throw in DeMar Hamlin, even though he was a 6th round pick, because I know you're a believer of DeMar Hamlin. I'm a believer of DeMar Hamlin too, and I think DeMar Hamlin's gonna be a really good niche nickel player for this team or dime player for this team. There are, and you can even throw guys like Justin Zimmer, Mike Love, and Daryl Johnson on this list. F.A. Obata, you could throw on this list. Ton of high ceiling, high upside players where if 3 or 4 more of them, because of a full off season, it finally clicks for them and they hit that ceiling or they hit that potential or they start on the trajectory towards that or that potential. Look out for this defense. Look out for it because you have the backbone there in guys like Stars, Hughes, White, Hyde, Poyer,
You
and Milano.
you have more upside players, especially on the defensive line, than you did a year ago. Now, we
Mhm.
thought Quentin Jefferson maybe was a high upside player, but maybe
Yeah.
we were a little overhyping him, right?
Mhm.
We do know that Rousseau and Basham and obviously Oliver are high upside players. AJ Epinesa could be. So what you're doing as an organization, as a coaching staff, is you're saying, let's put as many high upside guys on this line and really
Mhm.
all over the roster as we can. And even if our hit rate on these guys panning out to their full potential isn't 100%, which we know it probably won't be because it just doesn't work out that way. Even if you hit on, let's say, half of these super high upside guys, that's success, right? Because those guys now become impact players for your team, young impact players for your team for many years.
Mhm.
And you made the investment and took the chance on it, rather than when you're kind of in a rebuilding mode, if you will, like we were in 17 and 18, we're trying to get the cap in order. You almost go for the safer plays, right? You go for the safer guys that are known commodities that maybe don't have the higher ceiling. Now that you have an established roster, the culture is good, you've got a great, really roster top to bottom
Mhm.
depth wise, you have the luxury to go for high upside guys. So to answer this question, is Tyrell Adams overhyped? I would say yes.
Mhm.
That defense for the Texans was abysmal last year. He played a lot of snaps, but that, like we know with Preston Brown, just because you get
Mhm.
tackles doesn't mean you're good. It's the same argument people use for Tremaine Edmunds. Like, just because he had 115 tackles doesn't mean he had a great season. It's a classic case of
Yeah.
linebackers are box score stuffers
Mhm.
historically, right?
Yeah.
London Fletcher was a box score stuffer for how many years in Buffalo and never made a Pro Bowl with the Bills, right? So linebackers are going to get those tackles, and that's what people look at first and foremost. But I don't know that Tyrell Adams is I do think he's a little overhyped, I'll say, because unless he's strictly playing special teams, I don't really want that guy playing defense.
Got Mr. Diggs coming in with a great comment. He says, once you fit that ceiling, it's about playing with the team, and that team could be great. I like that comment from Mr. Diggs. Do your 111th, as Sean McDermott would say. Andre Lob coming in, he agrees. He thinks that a guy like Tyrell Adams is overhyped. So looking at, and I want to talk about AJ Klein a little bit now. Is AJ Klein a lock? Because salary would probably dictate that he's a lock. You're not freeing up pretty much any money, and you're eating a pretty significant dead cap hit. He understands Sean McDermott's defense. He played with him for a while there in Carolina. But you look at the history of linebackers that have made the team under Sean McDermott. And I do apologize because Chris Jenke was the one responsible for the stats. This shows I have no future at a place like ESPN. I put Julian Stanford too many times. 2017, it was Tanner Vallejo, not Julian Stanford. So apologies for the error on that graphic. But we kept 6 players in 2017. And this is the opening day roster. 6 players in 2018, 6 players in 2019, 6 players in 2020 at the linebacker spot. So even though like during the season, it often dipped down to about 5 guys, especially in that Maurice Alexander year, a little bit last year, even though not so much because of the injuries, things like that. If you look at this depth chart, common sense or common thought would probably tell you, well, it's going to be Edmunds, it's going to be Milano, it's going to be AJ Klein, it's going to be Tyrell Adams, and then it's going to be Tyler Matakevich and Andre Smith, the 2 special teams guys. There's your 6, done. Wash your hands of it. But what if a guy like Tyrell Dodson steps up? What if a guy like Markel Lee or Joe Giles-Harris steps up? Who's more likely to go, you think, in this situation? Is it an AJ Klein? Is it a Tyrell Adams? Or do we sacrifice one of those special teamers in a Tyler Matakevich or an Andre Smith? What are your thoughts on it? Like, is AJ Klein as set in stone as many people think?
I think he is, and I honestly think Tyrell Adams is the guy that's odd man out. I think they would keep Tyrell Dodson, at least if it was me. I would keep Tyrell Dodson over Tyrell Adams because I think Tyrell Dodson is a better defensive player than Tyrell Adams. So if it was me, it looks like it would be honestly the same exact 6 from last year, right? Andre Smith and Matakevich as those special teamers, and then you got Edmunds, Milano, Klein, and Dodson. Like, to me, that would be the 6. And I know Greg, Tom Sitt and I were kind of going back and forth a little bit on Twitter about like, the history of how many players we've kept at each position. And he's, made the point of like, you can't, it's only been 4 seasons. So you can't say like, it's definitely going to happen, but like 6 players at that spot for the opening day roster for 4 years in a row, to me is a little bit of a trend. So it would be surprising if they didn't keep 6. I'll say this. It would be surprising if they kept more than 6 for sure.
Yeah.
If they kept 5, maybe less surprising if they only kept 1 special teamer, let's say. But I think Tyrell Adams, I don't know that, for me personally, I would not keep him over a guy like Dodson because I just like what I've seen from Dodson better on defense.
Yeah, we got Mighty McRaven coming in. Always appreciate the super chat, guys. He says, nothing really to say. Just love what you guys are doing. Keep up the great work. Mighty McRaven, I loved everything about the super chat until the last thing you said. 83 days. 83 days until football is back. That is way too long. But thank you, Mighty McRaven. We really appreciate that. And if you have any comment or question you want to throw in here during the show, let us know, and we'll throw it up there because we do appreciate that super chat. And then just, Dave, make sure that you're staying in tip-top shape because the boss man's in the house. We got Rico in here.
Ooh, I better not say anything about Duke Williams. I shouldn't say anything bad about Duke Williams while Rico is in the house. Yeah, I'll get fired.
Rico's coming in saying, showing love to the Air Raid boys. A close eye will be on Edmunds. He needs to match, if not outshine, Milano for me to feel good about him long-term in Buffalo. And yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Someone made the comment, this video, what is the title of this video? Edmunds has been a beast. This is clickbait. It was intended to say, like, is this a make or break year for Edmunds? I don't think anyone has said that Edmunds, like, we are big Edmunds supporters on this show. I don't think we're saying that he hasn't been a beast. I think we're just saying, like, is this a year for him to kind of really take that step towards true difference maker on the defense, right? Like, you'd be hard pressed to find 10 other middle linebackers you'd rather have, maybe 5 to 7 that you'd rather have than him. So that was not
Yeah.
the
It was 100% titles clickbait, though. I mean, that's what I do.
yeah.
I'm the
Well,
king of clickbait. So
but the content was not intended to be
the content is
maligned
not
at
clickbait.
Edmunds.
The content is not clickbait. But how many times have y'all shared something on Twitter and made a comment based on the title of the article, and then someone's like, "Dude, read the article," and you realize, like, man, I shouldn't have tweeted this. 100% that was clickbait. You clicked in, Zach Black, and now you're listening to us talk. So I did my job. But that being said, there's 2 years left on this Tremaine Edmunds deal, the 4th year, and then the 5th year option that we picked up. And even though he might be a top 10 linebacker, you got to pay Josh Allen. You need to make sure Josh Allen has weapons. You need to make sure there's a left tackle, Deion Dawkins, in place. There are other positions on the defense that you need to pay. Despite what some teams in the National Football League want you to believe, the salary cap is not a myth. So,
good thing Pierre's not in the chat.
Tremaine Edmunds is going. He's going to have to bring his game up to a level where you're like, yeah, I feel comfortable giving him a $16 million a year contract. Because right now, he's probably more of a 10, 11, 12, $13 million player on the field. I don't think he deserves that $16, $17 million contract. And
is it fair to say
on the open market?
Is it fair to say that Matt Milano has been a better player than Tremaine Edmunds to this point?
I would say so. I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, they play a different position. I mean, to me, Tremaine Edmunds' job is to sort of,
well, they paid. I'll say this: they paid Milano, right? The $11 million a year or whatever he's getting. If it came down to it, and you had to choose between Tremaine at 15 or 16 a year and Milano at 11 or 12, who are you keeping?
Yeah. I mean, and Josh Ulrich comes in and says, I think Edmunds is so young. That's been our number one defense from day one, is like, this dude is young. Like, give him some time. It kind of reminds me of like NHL players, right? They come into the league when they're 18, 19 years old. Like Rasmus Dahlin was getting shit from Sabres fans early on. Now he's a really good offensive defenseman. So just give it some time. We got another super chat coming in from Ombre Lob. Why does this concept of the salary cap not exist coming from? It clearly does exist. If it didn't, the Cowboys would be in the bowl every year. That is true.
It's because a lot of people, what they see online, and we're all guilty of this to some extent, is like something gets flashed across the screen that says like the Kansas City Chiefs only have $1 million in cap room, and then they go out and sign a guy for $10 million, and you're like, well, how does that happen? Accounting is a fun thing, guys. Like signing bonuses and roster bonuses, these things get prorated into future years. The way that the accounting works for each year is different. So, but on the surface, people are like, well, the math doesn't work. But the accounting is what matters. So I think that's where this concept or this myth comes from, because things like that happen a lot. And yes, it clearly does exist. And we know that if it didn't exist, then the Bills probably would have gone out and traded for Zach Ertz already, I'm guessing, or signed Julio Jones.
Yeah.
So, or traded for Julio Jones, I should say. So, yeah. Anyway.
So last topic here is going to be who makes the final cut. And we got about a minute before we're going to bring Lawrence on, 1 or 2 minutes before we're going to bring Lawrence on. So you got Edmunds, Milano are set in stone. Everyone else is sort of a question mark. AJ Klein's probably a lock. Tyrell Adams, probably a front runner. You got those 4 in Dodson, Lee, Harris, Bell, Matakevich, and Smith. Historically, we have kept 6, but 5 is also an option, especially when we talked about defensive line and all that stuff. Who makes the final cut? Who are your 5 or 6 guys? And my last question too is, it's like Andre Smith or Tyler Matakevich. Is there room on the roster for 2 special teams only guys?
I mean, there has been, right? If you put up the graphic from the last 4 years really quick, we'll see that that's been the case, right?
Yeah.
You had Matakevich.
It was Vallejo and Lacey, and then Stanford and Lacey, Stanford, Alexander, and then Matakevich, and then it ended up being Andre Smith once Delshon went on
So see that 2020 list? Replace Delshon Phillips' name with Andre Smith, and I think that's who it is. Like I really do. At least
and then it would be Dotson versus Adams maybe for that 4th spot.
Yeah, and I think Dodson, at least for me right now, I'm giving Dodson the edge until I can see. I get that Adams has starting experience and has played some defense, but honestly, I'd rather have Dodson. I'd rather have Dodson right now, and I'd rather go with those 6 if you're going to stick to history. I
Yeah.
know it's not a guarantee. Give me Edmunds, give me Milano, Klein, Tyrell, Dodson, Matakevich, and Andre Smith would be the 6 for me.
Yeah, I know. Chris Jenke coming in. He only has room for one special teamer. He's got Matakevich and then maybe Dodson, because Dodson and Adams could play special teams too. So like if Tyrell Adams comes in and shows he could play special teams,
Actually, that's a good
then
point.
maybe you don't need it. Maybe
Tyrell
you don't need
Adams could make it over Andre Smith. I hadn't considered that, but that's actually a really good point.
Club Tweet coming in saying Edmunds, Milano, Klein, Adams, Matakevich, and Dodson.
Yep.
We got another one saying
I'd say I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with that actually.
Yeah, we got Tremaine, Matt, AJ Adams, Dodson, Matakevich.
Am I allowed to do that? Is that allowed?
You're allowed to do whatever you want, dude. We're live. You can switch up. I flip flop all the time, dude. So it's fine. We got Edmunds, Milano, Klein, Matakevich, Dodson, Adams. Smith gets cut for Adams. So a whole bunch. Dodson and Adams both play special teams. Says Chris Jenke.
Adams played 122 special team snaps last year in addition to those defensive snaps. So 27% of the special team snaps. So yeah. Give me Adams over Andre Smith then, and keep Matakevich and Dodson.
All right. So ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do right now is we're going to bring on a special guest. We got Lawrence Owen from Colts Law, and I'm going to bring him in. But before I do, I'm going to give you another one of my fancy PowerPoint graphics here. And I have the Colts depth chart. Dave, could you walk us through the Colts depth chart while I get Lawrence onto the show here?
Yeah, so we obviously know the Colts made the big move in the offseason, trading for Carson Wentz. We know how good Jonathan Taylor was last year when they actually decided to give the ball to him, and the great third down back and receiving back in Nyheim Hines, my fellow NC State alum, Nyheim Hines. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. The receiving group is interesting, right? T.Y. Hilton is getting up there in years, but he's back. They have some nice young players in Pittman and Campbell. We'll see if Pascal can still continue to be a reliable option. He's been kind of underrated, in my opinion. Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox, a good duo of tight ends. Jack Doyle, when on the field, is actually quite a good tight end. We know about the O-line with Quentin Nelson, and Ryan Kelly, and Glowinski in the middle. The outside of that line is really the question mark. Then they went in the draft and brought in Kwity Paye with their first-round pick, a guy a lot of Bills fans were high on in the draft as an edge rusher. The middle of that line looks really good with Buckner, and then they've got the good linebackers with Leonard, Okikri, and Franklin. At the corner, they brought back Rhodes, a guy that a lot of Bills fans were hoping maybe would come in on a short-term deal, and we know they invested some draft capital recently in the safety position with Julian Blackmon. So a really solid team, if anything, not super flashy, but no real major glaring weaknesses. Just a solid team, top to bottom, and they went and kind of doubled down on defense in drafting Paye, and there was the other defensive end they drafted in the second round. I don't know. How to say his name.
He's not on there because he's not playing this year with a torn ACL. But
okay, well there you go.
We'll bring Lawrence on, and Lawrence, I do apologize before we get to you. We got Jeff King coming in with a super chat as well, and he says, if Don Keith is single and agrees to dinner, I will donate another $50. Love the European.
Wow, we're now the air raid dating game.
We are now the air raid dating hour. So Don, be gentle with Jeff King's heart, please. Be gentle with Jeff King's heart. We really do appreciate that. But
Dawn says she just turned red, so I don't know.
We don't know.
Make this happen. Let's see if we can make this happen.
But while we wait to see Dawn's response here, Lawrence,
love that setup, by the way, Lawrence. Man, that's nice.
Talk a little bit about what you do over there on YouTube, because it's more than just Colt stuff. You did a really nice Josh Allen breakdown. You had a pretty sweet guest on Monday last week in me. Talking a little bit of Buffalo Bills last Thursday. And you do a lot around the NFL stuff. So talk about people, where they can find you and what kind of content you create.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Colts_Law. And I'm on YouTube. That's my channel name right there, Lawrence Owen. But I mean, if you type in Colts Law, you'll find me.
We'll make sure that we tag it in the what do they call it? The description as well too.
Oh, like I did for you when you joined my. Okay. Yeah.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
I see it. Yeah. No, I cover the Colts mainly, but I do cover the entire NFL. My niche is film rooms. I go in, check out the coaches, all 22, and break down players and see what their weaknesses, what their strengths are. And I love doing that. And like you said, I've got some Bill stuff on there. I break down all the NFL. I mean, I'm a huge football fan. So why limit myself to one team? Yes, I'm a fan of the Colts, but I watch other games. Oh, good Lord. If you want to count how many games I bet I've watched every game that was played last year via all 22 throughout the whole game. All of them at least 5 times.
Even Jacksonville Jaguars games?
Yes. Yes. I watched, I'll tell you what, I think I watched more Jets games last year than I did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
that's
Respect,
impressive.
man. That's dedication.
To watch an Adam Gase offense that much.
Well, that's the whole reason why. I was looking at it going, these guys got to be better. I mean, this has got to be Gase's fault, right?
Oh, because you were probably in on, as a Colts fan,
Mhm.
you were probably.
Oh yeah, I was high on
Sam
Darnold.
Yeah,
I was higher on Sam Darnold than I was on Carson Wentz.
Well, you ended up not with Sam Darnold, but with Carson Wentz. So my first question to you is, new quarterback. The Colts took us down to the wire in that playoff game last year, that wild card playoff game. Thank you, Rigo Blankenship, for missing that one field goal. Thank you, Frank Reich, for that goal line stuff that he did. Buffalo Bills were finally able to break that playoff win drought, but you guys took us to the wire with Phillip Rivers, old man Rivers. Newer, younger guy, Carson Wentz, has a relationship with Frank Reich. What are your expectations for Carson Wentz?
To me, it depends upon how quickly he can get a connection with the rest of the team. He's already got the connection with Reich, and I think that he'll get the playbook and all that stuff down, right? I think he's got to come in and feel comfortable, like he was a rookie in Philadelphia when he was drafted, right? That's what he's got to feel like. He can't come in with this baggage that he just came in from Philly. That's just, it can't happen. I understand that that can pose issues in your mind long term, and he needs to just clean slate it, right? If he can do that, I think the biggest step is over, because from what I see on film, 90% of the issues that he was having last year wasn't his fault, right? Some of it was him holding the football too long, or small little critiques that he needs to do in his delivery, things of that nature. But overall, the fact that he had no offensive line because of injuries, depleted offense, and just terrible play calling. When you don't have an offensive line and your weapons are destroyed, you don't call a play where everybody's basically on a go route all the time, because you got to sit there and hold the football. What's going to happen? You're going to get sacked.
So you guys ran offense last year, Frank Reich, with Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers, very old, very immobile. Carson Wentz, not so old, not so immobile. Do you expect a shift in the philosophy of Frank Reich's offense heading into this season?
I expect a huge shift, and not in a way a lot of people think. But that has to do with other coaching as well. I think we're going to talk about the offensive coordinator later, and I think that's going to have a little bit of I think impact on how the plays are going to be called. But there is going to be a lot of that quick release, short routes that I think is going to happen still, because Reich did it with Luck, Reich did it with Brissett, Reich did it with Rivers. Get the ball out quick, high percentage completion passes, so that, just move the sticks, eat the clock. That's how I feel that Frank Reich loves to run his offense, and I think that he'll still use a lot of that with Carson Wentz.
We got an update here from Dawn Keith as well. She says, all right, guys, I am single, but I have been kind of dating someone in the Cardinals front office. So Dawn, didn't realize you were a fellow Arizonan. So nice to see you here out in the desert with me. Yeah, Dawn, hit us up with any Cardinals insight you might have. And Dawn playing a little hard to get for Jeff King there. So Jeff, she appreciates the shot. He shot a shot. He appreciates the shot. So maybe someday, sometimes what's the saying? Sometimes you got to set something free, and if it comes back, it was meant to be.
Right.
Lawrence, I want to ask you about that, what you just mentioned, because you talked about moving the sticks and, the big shift in the offensive philosophy. Would you say that we know Andrew Luck his mobility was underrated. Like he was a very good runner. Would you say that's kind of maybe more of what you would expect to see from Wentz, like a little more improvisational running from him? And like you said, with the offensive personnel they have, with those, I mentioned it before you came on, those studs in the middle of that offensive line, and now you have Jonathan Taylor coming off that great run at the end of the season. It looked to me like Frank Reich kind of went that way as the season went on a little bit, where Jonathan Taylor seemed to me like a guy, the more you gave him the rock as you kind of progressed through the game, the better he got. Whereas early in the season, they were kind of limiting him to like 10, 12 carries, and he couldn't really get in a rhythm. So do you see that, maybe that trend with Taylor continuing to go along with that new shift in philosophy with Wentz to really make this offense like one of the better offenses in the AFC?
Well, it depends. I mean, with Jonathan Taylor, it's how he starts off, in that first drive. If he doesn't, get a bunch of good positive yards, like 3, 4, 5 yards plus average on that drive, you probably won't see Jonathan Taylor as much, because Reich likes to. Colts are pretty happy with the depth of their running stable. So
Hines was good too. I'm not gonna lie. He's a great back as well.
And before Marlon Mack had his injury last year, Marlon Mack was a really good runner as well. I mean, he's
kind of the forgotten man right now.
Exactly, right. So I do believe that, as you're asking, the running game will play a major part in the offense and setting up how things go. But you got to remember, before Frank Reich came to the Colts, Andrew Luck was known in this offense as the offense was like, he held the ball and there was plays downfield, and the Colts threw the ball downfield a lot. And, Luck got hit a lot as he was releasing the football, Exactly. He might have been like good hit all the time, to the guys, but he was still taking those hits. And the last year that he played, his time to throw went from being 26th in the NFL to 8th in the NFL when Frank Reich was that first year Frank Reich coached for him.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
smart on his part.
Exactly. Just trying to get the ball out quicker. And that's the way he's ran the whole time. But in doing that, that brings up a defense, right? When you do those high, quick, short passes all the time, that's going to bring safeties up. When you're running the football all the time, that's going to bring safeties up. When that happens, that's when they're going to call those deep plays and use the speed of T.Y. Hilton or Paris Campbell or someone like that, I think, on play action and things of that nature. Let Carson Wentz's arm do the work then.
Yeah, we got a couple of really good questions from the comment section. Let's start with Chris S., and then I want to get to Josh Clark because I really like Josh Clark's. But Chris S. is sort of builds off of what we've just been talking about here. He said, did the Colts upgrade their wide receivers at all? Seems weak. They did re-sign T.Y. Hilton, who had a brief flirtation with the Baltimore Ravens before he realized Lamar Jackson was their quarterback. And he came back to Indianapolis. I'm looking at that depth chart. It's T.Y. Hilton. It's Michael Pittman. It's an off-injured Paris Jackson, Zach Pascal. Paris Campbell, sorry. I think Paris Jackson is Michael Jackson's daughter. And then they got some really good tight ends and guys like Doyle and guys like Ali Cox. And they drafted a guy out of SMU who they could use as a slot guy, and Kyle Granson. So they've got some weapons there, not to mention Naheem Hines out of the backfield as well, Jonathan Taylor. Part of you, were you hoping they would have gone out and chased more of an alpha receiver? Maybe gotten themselves into the Julio Jones sweepstakes, or gone after maybe because T.Y. is getting up there, maybe gone and replaced T.Y. with more of a younger or a more established alpha. Not that T.Y. is not established, but I think you understand where I'm going with this question here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And to answer the question, I don't think the Colts need to go out and address the wide receiver. I believe in the depth, just like Ballard and Reich believes in the depth. That's why they didn't go out and get a Julio Jones, or that's why they didn't go out and draft someone early in the first round. Injuries happen. Michael Pittman Jr. got hurt early in the season. He only played basically half a season, and he still had 600 and some yards playing half a season, the second half of the season, right? I believe that Michael Pittman staying healthy will be a very good number one moving forward. Paris Campbell's had two really, really bad, unlucky seasons. That first year, he was injured all the time. And then in the second game last year, he tore his ACL, done for the season, right? And on a freakish hit that happened in the Vikings game. After an end around that turned up like 29 yards, you know? So that's I believe that the Colts, if they can stay healthy, have a very dynamic wide receiving core, but it's the question of, can they stay healthy?
I think Zach Pascal's a little bit underrated too.
He is.
When he's been asked upon, he's performed, and he's a big bodied guy. I feel like he's, you know, and they drafted Strachan, right? You know, Steve interviewed him in the pre-draft process. They signed JJ Nelson. And if Paris Campbell can pan out in the slot, then you're talking about, you know, some pretty good options there. I mean, TY, for as bad of a, you know, rep that he might have had, like when he played last year, he was productive. Like he actually bounced back last year compared to the year prior.
I think he went from more of like an electric guy, because he was an electric guy early, that deep speed, to more of a veteran savvy guy over the past couple of years. Would that be a correct generalization of TY's game?
Yes, he still has the speed, but because the last two quarterbacks that the Colts have really been utilizing, which is Jacoby Brissett, who has a cannon but is afraid to throw it deep. I don't understand. And then Phillip Rivers, who just never had a cannon in his entire life. He had to learn how to run routes, get open in short yardage, and he became very good at that. It kind of filled out his repertoire, so to speak, in his route running. So yeah, TY is pushing, you know, he's around 30, getting there, but I think he still has that speed, has that ability to take a top off a defense when asked to do it. And to your point about Zach Pascal, he's a really good all around wide receiver. Like you said, big bodied, kind of that possession type receiver. And something that does not get talked about enough is perimeter blocking in the run game, right? Your wide receivers that can block can really take like your sweeps and your edges and your off tackles and allow big runs. Michael Pittman Jr. and Zach Pascal are elite run blockers at the wide receiver position. And that's another reason why the Colts run game is so dangerous in that aspect.
Got a great question here from Josh Clark. As a fan, what was your immediate visceral reaction when Andrew Luck retired halfway through that preseason game, or right before that preseason game, and he was saying goodbye to all of his teammates on the sideline? Like, what, as a fan, how were you feeling when you heard that news?
Okay. I've only answered this probably 500 times in my life, but I'll give it again because you guys haven't heard it. When I saw the tweet, this initial reaction while I was watching the game, and someone said, dude, you need to check this Twitter, you know, and I was like, okay. And I looked and it said that. And then I looked up and then I hear the boos, right? Of course I was shocked. I was like, come on, this is at that time, that was a Super Bowl team if Andrew Luck stayed, right? After the, you know, how well they were put together. At least I felt that way.
Yeah.
Then after I sat down the next day, thought about it overnight, Andrew Luck did his press conference about it. And I thought, you know what? The last 3 years, he's had injury after injury after injury. He just got married. He's having a baby. He wants to enjoy his life with his family and not be, you know, in pain doing so. Let the man, you know, live his life. That's how I just.
And he hasn't even sniffed a comeback either. Like,
no
question.
No, there's been all kind of rumors and questions about it, but I honestly, I don't believe he has any intention of ever coming back to the NFL.
He's the future successor as the commissioner of the XFL too.
Because of his dad. Yeah. Well, I mean, why would you have any kind of thoughts of coming back when he retired? The Colts owner, Jim Irsay, said, keep the $26 million we were going to pay you this year as a parting gift.
Yeah.
You know, so he's got over $100 million that he's made with the Indianapolis Colts, you know, let him Let him enjoy his retirement. Let him enjoy his life. If I had that much money and I had,
and he's like
a family to take care of. Yeah. And on top of that, I mean, he graduated from Stanford with an architect's degree.
He can build the Bill Stadium. He can.
There you go. Right. And he'll probably do it on the cheap, a lot cheaper than what Jerry Jones will.
Speaking of injuries, I got one for you. You guys lost Anthony Costanzo to retirement, and you were pretty bare there at left tackle. Now, I know the backup left tackle right now is Sam Tevy, which Frank Reich has experience with from his time in Los Angeles, San Diego. From what I've seen of Sam Tevy, he's pretty much been a turnstile his entire career. But you also signed Eric Fisher, who's coming off of an ACL tear, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, update us on Eric Fisher. It was not an ACL tear. What back? Something that might have been
Achilles.
To the back. Achilles, yeah. So update us on Eric Fisher. He's not going to start the season, correct? Or do you think he'll be ready for the start of the season?
See, this is interesting. Okay, so if he had the regular general Achilles surgery, there was no way he was going to come back until after October. 3 years ago, a new doctor came up with a brand new type surgery that shortens the length by 3 months recuperation time and increases the health of it. There's less scarring, less tissue damage in this surgery, which means that a player can come back. The time of recovery is anywhere between 6 to 9 months, which means he could legitimately start the season. Now, It also means he may not be back until October. But the Chiefs were going to re-sign him because they expected him to be ready by August, which is the 6-month line. Yeah. So, and then the Colts did their medical on him when he came and did a visit, and they set him up that they had the expectations of September, which is just a month later, and which is going to put it right near. I expect him to show up probably late September.
Do you think?
I figure he'll probably miss the first 2 or 3 games.
Do you think he gets thrown right into the fire, or do you think it's a situation where maybe they make him the swing tackle to start? And because he's only going to have mental reps. He's not going to have the physical reps because he's going to miss all of training camp. He's never played for Frank Reich before, so it's going to be a new scheme to him, a new language and all that stuff. So even if he is ready late September, do you think that's when you're actually going to see Eric Fisher? Or do you think the Colts maybe take their time and push it into October, November and make him more of a mid-season type of guy? I don't even know when the Colts bye week is. When is the Colts bye week?
The bye week is 14.
Ooh, that's rough.
Oh gosh.
So not after the bye week.
No. Well, I mean, it is kind of refreshing as a Colts fan to see a week 14 bye week, because we've been having week 4, week 6, week 5 bye weeks for the last 5 years.
And that might have worked out well for you this year.
Right.
With Costanzo. Yeah.
Right. But no. Honestly, it all depends upon how that left tackle is being held down. If Sam Tevy or the other guy that the Colts brought in is doing a terrible job and the Colts are 0-3 to start out, you may see Fisher shoved in there and just say, hey, give it a shot, dude. If that's the problem.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if they're holding their own or able to do the job with a little bit of, running back chip help or tight end chip help or something like that, being able to hold off that left tackle edge a little bit, and we are winning, even though with the way the Colts schedule is started off, it's pretty rough. So, I mean, if they've got 1 win in 3 games, that's not a terrible thing. Because the Colts start off first 5 games, I believe, are all 10-win teams from last year.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Chris S coming in saying, where do you see the Colts in the pecking order of the AFC? So where would you put them in the hierarchy of AFC teams?
We're right there with the Titans. I think we're 4th. I think we got Kansas City, Buffalo. I have the Browns, and then the Colts are right there in that fourth, fifth, sixth general, vicinity.
Nice. As shifting focus now from the offense to the defense, you mentioned when I was on your show that you think the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen played a role in the Indianapolis Colts going out and sort of giving a facelift to their pass rush this year.
Yeah.
They signed Kwity Paye. Danico Autry is gone. A lot of the veterans are gone. It's a very young group there. And let me pull it up here. It's Kwity Paye. It's Ty Lewis. It's Kamiko Toure. It's Benogu. Like, it's very young there. So what are your sort of thoughts on the edge rushers? Because if you're looking at it on paper with as raw as Kwity Paye is and how young as he is, and some of the youth and guys who maybe haven't lived up to their potential as higher draft picks, and guys like Tyrell and stuff and Ty Lewis, what's your confidence level on the edge rushers there with the Colts? Could that be a weak spot?
It could. That's one of those really high ceilings, but could be a really terrible floor at the same time, right? Yeah, they definitely went younger and faster. They got rid of Danico Autry, did not re-sign him. He actually went to the Titans, which is, kind
Some
of
Bills
freaked me
fans
out.
wanted to bring him in. Honestly.
Bills wanted him too, yeah.
Yeah. And then Houston, who I don't even think is re-signed with anyone yet, but I think he's biding his time. He's went and visited quite a few teams. But they're older. They're 30 plus, right? And a little bit slower. Yes, they're good at setting the edge and stuff, but we needed somebody that could get penetration, create havoc in the backfield, put pressure on the quarterback. We have a bunch of second round guys that have had their own issues, whether it be injury issues like what Kamiko Toure has, or you have guys who at points over the last couple years have had issues not putting out 100% during training camp, loafing. But that's why I think they spent their first two picks where they did, getting Paye for that speed edge, and then going and getting Dio Odengbo. That's how you pronounce his name.
But he's not going to play this year, right? Is he with the ACL?
No,
mid-season?
not
after week 14?
I would say don't expect him the first half of the season.
Yeah.
I fully expect him to start the season off on IR.
Yeah.
Okay. That's flat fact. And on top of that, the thing about Dio is they have him listed and registered. He could play all three positions, even the one tech in the NFL.
He was a favorite of ours coming out of Vanderbilt, and then he, like I said, he tore his ACL at the Senior Bowl, and it was all quiet after that.
Yeah, I look at him like the human hurricane. The dude just comes in and he's putting in literally like 120%. He's just putting everything he can into getting past that offensive line to get in the backfield. And sometimes he looks out of control when he's doing it, but offensive linemen don't see that.
Chris Collinsworth would call that slappy. I believe he referred to Gregory Rousseau as being a slappy player because he just manages to get to the quarterback even though it looks awful.
Yeah, I get that, and that's kind of how Dio is.
Yeah, I mean, but looking at this defense, I got some names highlighted here. Forrest Buckner, very good football player. Darius Leonard, elite football player. Take it back. They're both elite football players. Xavier Rhodes, very good football player. Kenny Moore, one of the better nickel corners in the league. Julian Blackmon, my draft crush last year, and I told you people I was going to be right on one of these Utah players, and Julian Blackmon was the one. He was very good. But you've lost some guys on that defense. You've already talked about the edges, but Zaire Franklin now has to come in and fill in for Anthony Walker. Rock Ya-Sin is now set in stone. Oh, you don't think so? We're going to get to that. See, people can't see it, but Lawrence is shaking his head. Rock Ya-Sin coming in is finally sort of, unless they want to play TJ Carey, going to be that established number 2. And then you got guys at safety like maybe George Odom. I think maybe Sean Davis looking at their depth chart. How do you expect them to fill the roles? And are you worried about maybe the lack of experience from some of these players? We can start with Franklin since you're shaking.
Okay, so Zaire Franklin's not going to be a starter.
All right.
That's Bobby Okereke.
Well, so you're running mostly nickel? Who's going to be that third linebacker? Okay.
The Colts play nickel or dime 70% of the time. So you're going to have your Mike and you're going to have your Will. Now the will is taken up obviously by Darius Leonard.
Mm-hmm.
The Mike was Anthony Walker Jr., and he was a very solid starting middle linebacker. We ended up going to the Browns.
Yeah, got everybody this offseason.
Oh my goodness. They took the Patriots scraps that they left on the table.
Yeah.
But Bobby Okereke, one of the reasons why Anthony Walker left, because he knew that Bobby Okereke was taking snaps from him, and they were training him to replace him as the starter at the Mike position. Bobby's a little bit faster and can play the pass a little bit better than what Anthony Walker came. Anthony Walker is a stud against the run and reading an offense before the ball's even snapped. Right? He's basically a defensive coach on the field. He actually does his film rooms he goes in and does film work on Mondays, preparing for the next game, and then comes in and shares it with his fellow linebackers before even the coaches do, but the Colts lost that. Now we got Bobby Okereke starting. That's going to be interesting whether or not he'll be able to do something similar as that. He's going to play faster. He'll play the pass better. I'm just curious if it's going to have an effect on the run game as well in a negative way. I don't know.
Interesting.
We're going to wait and see about that. Now, when it comes
they're pretty small on the edge too. Like, I mean, like inside Grover Stewart, Antoine Woods, those are big boys. Buckner's a big boy. Pay's a big boy, but then Teray and all those other guys, very small.
Yeah, most of your edge guys like Ben Banigou and Kamoko Teray, they're there for your speed. They're there they're your third down pass rush specialists. That's basically what they are. We did pick up a guy from the Chargers.
Isaac Rochelle?
Yeah, Isaac Rochelle. He kind of reminds me a little bit of
he seems like a 5-tech, like a 34 end. Yeah, like an Autry type, right?
Yes, he's like an Autry type. He seems very similar to what, Ballard did with Autry. Autry came in, performed well when given the snaps. I think that Rochelle will probably do something very similar. It's like Autry, but younger, just traded back in age, I think, is what he did there. But yeah, I mean, Grover Stewart, very solid one tech, probably one of the most underrated one techs in the NFL. He just got an extension last year, 3 years, $10 million, I think. But yeah, he's very solid. That's the great thing about the Colts. This is why their defense is so good, is because they got two very, very good tackles as starters, right? You got Buckner, you got Stewart. Those guys, they handle the middle, and they don't lose their gaps, and they can get penetration up the middle. So that disrupts a lot of things, and that's key to any good 4-3 defense.
So you mentioned they play a lot of nickel and dime, 70% nickel and dime. How are you feeling about Rocky Sin finally getting a chance to be full bore CB2? And what are your thoughts on what's going on there at safety opposite of Julian Blackman? Okay,
so there's going to be a 3-way fight for CB2. And when I say CB2, Kenny Moore is kind of odd. He's not just a nickel. He does play outside too. When they are in your base formation, you'll see Kenny play a lot of the outside corner. And then when they go to their nickel and dimes, he drops into the nickel. But that other outside guy, there's going to be a 3-way fight. If Rockison has an issue when he's playing man coverage, he gets a little handsy, gets a lot of PI and holding calls. That's why he was pulled last year in the last few games. And that's why TJ Carey came in and played full time in that. It'll be between those two and third-year player Marvell Tell, who in his rookie season played very, very well. He might be listed as a safety on yours. I don't know, but he's fighting for the outside corner because that's where he was played at as a rookie last year. He opted out due to COVID, coming back this year. So it's a 3-way fight between those guys for the number 2 spot.
All right, I'm talking over. Sorry, we just people might have noticed that my co-host was frozen. He lost power at his home apparently, so we're gonna switch it over to the the 2-man, and then we'll bring on Kendall in a little bit. But I'm sorry, keep going with your train of thought.
You was talking about safeties outside of Blackman. I'll tell you what, the strong safety we have, the Indianapolis Colts, very, very underrated. Khari Willis is absolute stud as well. Okay. So our starting safeties are solid. It's the backups that those the question, because once Khari Willis went out with an injury, whenever he went out with an injury, that's when things went wrong. Like against Pittsburgh, the Colts were beating the snot out of Pittsburgh the first quarter and a half. Khari Willis gets a concussion, goes out. Odom comes in, who is a all-pro special teamer. But you could be an all-pro special teamer, but that don't mean everything, right? When it's you're playing solid, snaps of defense. Then Roethlisberger started throwing it deep on his side of the field, right? And got burnt, and that's why Pittsburgh came back and won. Do you
think that speaking of guys getting burned deep, Randy coming in saying Colts are on the radar for a cornerback like Nelson? Do you think a guy like Richard Sherman, who talked about maybe transitioning to safety, do you think Sherman or Nelson could be on the Colts radar?
The Colts haven't really brought in very many cornerbacks. I think they actually, I think they like the competition they have there, right? That's what they're looking at. They think the competition will bring out the best in everybody. The safety position, I think, is a little interesting because they went and got Sean Davis from Pittsburgh, who's been at Pittsburgh for a while, played both strong and free safety, but not the best guy. He's plays better at free than he does strong. He's not very good in the box. And then they drafted, I think it was their 4th round pick. No, 5th round, Sean Davis, safety.
Yeah, out of Florida.
He's a box
special teamer. Yeah,
he's a box safety or special teamer. Absolutely, that's what he is. He's not a guy that you're going to have out there covering the field too much. You want to bring him in to help stop the run. That's fine, but I don't want to see him out there when there's 5 wides.
All right, so. While you get that phone there, here's my next question to you. And people in the comment section, I want you guys to throw your takes out there as well. So we've heard Lawrence do a really nice, thorough breakdown on the Colts. So my question to you now is, how do the Colts, in your opinion, stack up with the Buffalo Bills mano-a-mano when they go to play them? I believe the game is in Orchard Park. I really should have checked that. Hold up. The background on my computer is the Bills' schedule. It is a home game for the Bills. So when they come to Highmark Stadium, how do you think the Colts are going to go in that rematch of the wild card game with the Bills? And people in the comment section, let us know what you think, and we'll have Lawrence react to your predictions. First off,
it's going to be very difficult to do any kind of predictions on that. I actually have the Colts losing that game. It's the toughest game in the second half of the season for the Colts. And it's tough to get a good handle on the Colts when you have a brand new quarterback who didn't do very well last year and unknowns at pass rush, right? Those are two problems. And granted, the Colts did go out and get younger and faster just because, in my opinion, of what Josh Allen was able to do. Even though the Colts, that's what they do all the time. That's how they built their defense, was to stop guys like Deshaun Watson, that was in their division. I believe the Bills win the game at home against the Colts, but I think it's a game that the Colts are good enough to win, so don't completely knock them out. You know what I mean? I got this as like a 31-28 type game.
All right. We got a couple of reactions here. I want to get your reaction to these reactions. Ombre Lob coming in saying, I think we beat the Colts, and I think it comes down to the quarterbacks. We have Josh Allen, so we win. What are your thoughts on that? Could Carson Wentz by then be established enough to be
that's the thing.
Josh Allen?
I don't know. I mean, 2017, 2018, 2019, go look at his stats. Carson Wentz was good. And then all of a sudden last year, everything went to crap and Carson Wentz looked like trash. Welcome back.
lost power. I lost
heard.
power. But everything I've got going on right now, my mic, my ring light, my computer is all connected, powered from my computer, and my phone's got the Wi-Fi hotspot. So I'm back for
Look
the
at
I'm
that.
back. I don't know I don't know how long this
You do look a little
computer's gonna-
grainier.
Yeah, I'm sure the connection's probably not as good with my phone as it is with my normal
We got
modem, so
we got Chris S coming in here saying he's jealous of your blocking wide receivers. Listen, Chris, like we used to love Robert Woods and his blocking. So, hopefully the Bills receivers are pretty good blockers as well. Don Keith, Bills win easily. What are your thoughts on that?
Did you think the same thing in the AFC or in the AFC wildcard game?
Ooh, I like that. Don, I love you, but I like that response. I like that one. But he does say playoff time is totally different. Randy Harvin coming in saying offensively, if Indy can establish a run and take advantage of using play action and rollouts, they can go blow for blow. And that's what they did. And I'll tell you what, I think the key to your victory, because I think your offense is going to be better. The key to your victory is going to be Matt Eberflus. Because what that man did last year to Josh Allen, and I mentioned to you on your show, like the nicest thing to see was Josh Allen will that team to victory and put that team on his back and score the amount of points. But man, was Darius Leonard giving that dude some trouble. The way they were dropping back Darius Leonard, the way Darius Leonard was reading Josh Allen that entire game, Darius Leonard made Josh Allen's life friggin' miserable. He's such a good player.
That's the great thing about
that was Eberflus's scheme. Yeah.
That's what they do. Like I said, the Colts are built to play against those mobile, scrambling type quarterbacks. And you've got guys who kind of try to corral and then have a spy at linebacker. Generally, it'll either be Okereke or Leonard, who's fast enough to be able to cover if they decide to go take off. But now the question is, the problem was they weren't able to hold the edge and corral. Josh Allen was, even though he was under pressure a lot. We got pressure on Allen the whole game, but he was able to get out, extend the play, and make stupid plays against us. And credit Josh Allen, because not many players out there outside of guys like Watson, Mahomes, people like that can do things to what Josh Allen was able to do against the Colts that game.
All right, Lawrence. Thank you so much. I want two more things from you. Prediction for the Colts season. And we can get some reactions to some people in the comment section's predictions for the Colts season too, if we want. So if you have a prediction for the Colts season, let us know in the comment section. And just remind the people again, one more time, where they can find you. And we're going to leave all your stuff, your Twitter, your YouTube, all that stuff. We're going to put it right down in the description box of this episode once we're done live as well. So you can find them just by simply following the hyperlinks in the description box as well. But tell us where we can find you and give us some predictions for the Colts.
All right. So first off, my prediction for the Colts this year, I already marked it down. I got them winning the AFC South, but only at 11-6 because their schedule outside the division's nasty with the AFC East and the NFC West. But they win. I think the Titans end up 10-7 and come in second. I don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs. They'll win their division, but like I said, it depends. It's just getting to the playoffs is what matters. Once you're there, then anything can happen.
Your co-host over there at Colts Law, Colts Loyalist, coming in saying 12-5.
Yeah.
Randy Hardman, 12. I think he says the ceiling is 12-5, floor is 10-7.
I think 11-6 is a totally fair prediction. Honestly,
yeah,
I really do.
I got a lot of heat of that from Colts fans. I'll tell you what. But
do you think that they'd be better? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they're saying that I should have them minimum 12-5. A lot of people saying 13-4.
And Randy comes in saying, people told us the NFC West was going to be tough last year, and we went 3-1. So, and 3-1 with an asterisk because of Kyler goddamn Murray. Anyway.
Well, also, when did you play Seattle? Was it early in the season or late in the season?
It's like week 7 or something.
Mid-early, yeah, I would say mid-early.
Yeah, so it was right about the time where Wilson went from being Superman to being, I don't know.
Yeah, they just
changed that game.
It was It was
It
Carlos.
changed that game.
It was Carlos
Yeah.
Dunlap's first game, I believe. So
Okay. Yeah.
No,
See, that was the thing.
of course I'm still salty. I live
And
in
then,
Arizona.
and I'll tell you what, San Francisco would have been a whole lot better last year had not 3/4 of their team got on the injury reserve. You know,
we beat Nick Mullins fair and square. I don't want to hear
I mean, I won't complain if 3/4 of their players is on the injury list.
If Josh Rosen is the starting quarterback when you face them.
Watch that be his comeback game. Right. I'm going to take over the NFL the way they thought I was going to when I was drafted.
I think we're legally obligated not to talk about Josh Rosen on this show because too many of us wanted Josh Rosen instead of Josh Allen.
Well, I mean, he to be fair, Josh Allen got a not Josh Allen, but Josh Rosen got a raw deal.
Super
raw deal. So far throughout his career, gets drafted, plays one bad season on a really bad team, and then gets traded, and then plays one season on a really bad team and gets traded. That's raw deal. But yeah, that's my predictions. I really think it a lot like a lot of you think. It depends upon Carson Wentz, right? He just got to realize he's got a really good team around him and does not have to play hero ball, right? Let the other team around him play. Just the way Phillip Rivers did. Just go out there and play football. Realize, you don't have to make a play every down. Throw the ball away if you need to. Take a sack if you have to, which he shouldn't have to very often. When the most immobile quarterback in the NFL was the second least sacked quarterback in the NFL last year. That says a lot. But yeah, you can find me, like I said, on Twitter and Instagram at Colts_Law, and on YouTube at Lawrence Owen. If you want to check out, I got a crap ton of film rooms.
The Josh Allen one was good.
I got also when I do live streams like what you guys are doing, I'll take like certain super chats because I do film rooms. So people will drop super chats in there worth, a fair amount and be like, hey, can you do a film room on this? And I'm more than happy to do it. So if any of you guys here watching this want a specific film room on a Bills player or something, come to my channel, drop it. Even if it's a Colts channel, it doesn't matter, man. You ask for a film room somewhere else, I will drop that sucker. I don't care. And I'll give you my honest opinion. I try to take my homerism out of everything when I do film rooms because that's bad content.
And producer Kendall in the background, he does the BF film room on Saturdays.
Oh, does he?
Oh yeah.
Well,
so maybe he'll have to bring you on for an outsider's perspective. That might be something.
That would be fun. Hey, you know what?
You do long snappers? Do you do film room long snappers?
I mean, if someone drops a super chat for that, then I'll have to, but I haven't done one yet.
Yeah. So, Lawrence, we really appreciate it. Kendall's probably definitely going to hit you up for a little outside perspective on his film room. And we are going to definitely need to have you back, whether it's during training camp, maybe to get your thoughts on some things around the league, and definitely, during this show and during the BF tailgate before that Colts game. It's always a pleasure, Lawrence. Thank you so much.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Oh, go for it. I didn't even think to do that. Do you have a question for us? Yeah, go for it.
Well, this isn't Bills related so much. I want to know how much
we spent 5 minutes talking about ball sacks last show, so you're good.
I promise you, this is not a question about scrotums. Okay. No. How closely are Bills fans paying attention to the Gilmore and Xavier Howard news right now?
It's really funny. I don't think we're paying that close of attention to it, but people in Buffalo hate Stephon Gilmore like with a passion. I mean, from the day he was drafted here, he hated it. You could tell the look on his face. There is this video from Saturday Night Football, the Christmas Eve game or the Christmas weekend game 2 years ago, where John Brown absolutely deked Stephon Gilmore out of his shorts. And I'm pretty sure that's in the Bills meme or the Bills GIF Hall of Fame. It's just that like 4-second clip of John Brown just schooling Stephon Gilmore. We can't stand Stephon Gilmore here.
Oh, that
And
was partly because he won Defensive Player of the Year that year as well, right? So
yeah,
the
over
Bills
Trey
fans
White,
had,
over Trey White, yeah.
and the Bills fans had to point out
Mhm.
continuously that play where Brown just roasted him because it was
Yeah.
all about like the context around like who allowed
Mhm.
they said he allowed like 0 touchdowns, but they kept showing that one clip, and he's like,
Mhm.
clearly he allowed a touchdown, right? But they blamed it on the safety, I think.
Yeah, and then I mean Xavier Howard gets all the interceptions in the world, so he's definitely like talked about on the national stage. Now he's holding out, and we have a guy here in Buffalo who fan favorite. I mean, this guy is just, you couldn't ask for a better human being. Trey White's got, he does things with the Sabres called the Trey White Goalie Academy, where he pretends to have his own goalie academy and does things on skates with the Sabres and the community and stuff. And I mean, he signed that extension. He never talked about money. Like, just an absolute great guy. So the fact that we now have Trey White and we're watching that go on in Miami with Xavier Howard, we're watching what's going on in New England with Stephon Gilmore. It's just fun. It's just nice. It's something you chuckle at, but I don't think it's the most, I don't think it's at the forefront of people's mind.
And my other question is, what do you hope to see improve the most next year between more effective running plays? You know, when I'm saying that, like better yards per carry when it comes to that, or do you want to see more so better D-line play, like just in general?
I want to see. For me, I want to see us more stout up front on the interior of the defensive line, and I think getting Starr back in the mix is going to help, especially against the run. I really want to see the Bills really shore up against opposing teams' run games. That for me is obviously something I'm hopeful about and expecting, giving the investments we've made on the defensive line and getting Starr back. So I'm going to say, yeah, a lot of people are saying D-line. So that's for me.
I mean, 100% it has to be line, because we were still good on offense last year, even though we couldn't run the ball effectively. So we could still score points without that. We had the most expensive defensive line in football last year, didn't show up, wasn't that effective. And now we have cut a little bit, trimmed a little bit of it, and then added our third, day 1, day 2 pick in 2 years. Like, they got to put up. They got to be more effective this year. If they don't, that's going to be a huge problem. Oh yeah, Ed Oliver, our fourth, our first. Ed Oliver, first round pick. AJ Epinesa second. Basham second. Rousseau first. Like, if that defensive line can't step up, in addition to having a high price Jerry Hughes, a high price Mario Addison, a high price Star Lotulelei, a high price Vernon Butler, like, they gotta be better.
Well, I was just saying, because the run game last year, I mean, no one was scared of it, right? They were playing pass. You guys were still doing very good in the pass game, and was still able to score points and move the football. But if you had an effective running game where teams legitimately had to take that in consideration on every down, that would open up the pass play even more so and make you even that much more dangerous. So that's why I was curious about that question.
There were two camps. There were two camps in Bills Mafia, right? And some of them were overlapped. There was camps of the O-line. If the O-line play gets better, will be more feared on the ground. But there's also the camp of, we didn't run the ball that much to begin with. So do people really even care? A lot of people wanted the Bills to go after an Etienne or a Najee Harris in the draft because they felt that would maybe instill some fear for our run game into opposing defenses. But it seemed like the vast majority of people came out on interior O-line play, in addition to what we just said about interior D-line play, was an issue. The Bills were mixing and matching all year on the interior of the offensive line as well, and that affected the effectiveness of the running game. So we'll see if Zach Moss, the combination of Moss, Breida, and Singletary can instill some more fear into defenses this year. Let's hope so.
Got a couple of comments here. One from Chameleon Tech 59 at Gmail. Chameleon. There we go. I can't speak words. It says, I love this podcast. Thank you. We appreciate it. And John DeMarcy coming in saying Colts also went D-line 1-2 last draft ahead of the Buffalo Bills. So that's something to look at as sort of like a big baller Bean versus Chris Ballard type of thing here. It's Colt,
Chris
Pay
Ballard
versus Rousseau. Yeah. And it's the guy whose name I can't pronounce. You can try it if you want again.
Dio Odangbo.
And Carlos Basham. Yeah, there we go.
No, I was mispronouncing it too for a long time until I got into a press conference with Eberflus and asked him, and he's like, "This is exactly how you say." I was like, "Oh, thank you." But yeah, I mean, Ballard drafts defensive linemen in the second round minimum every season. If you go back and look, he values defensive line. There is a minimum of 10 defensive linemen on the 53-man roster every year. You know, so that a lot of value in that front four.
All right. So he also says the Colts want to lend us Jonathan Taylor. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That'd be a big fat no. Sure. You know what? I'll tell you what. Go ahead. You can borrow him for this season. We'll borrow Josh Allen for a season, and then we'll go.
All right, Lawrence, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it. You can find Lawrence on Twitter at Lawrence Owen.
Yes.
Okay. And you can find him over on YouTube at Lawrence Owen and also Colts Law. So a big thank you to Lawrence for coming on. We really appreciate it, Lawrence, and we're definitely going to have you on again.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. It's actually fun. I don't get to go on other people's podcasts very often and talk Colts, so it was fun having you on. You guys ever want to come on or want me to come back, feel free. Everybody watching this, please smash that like button. They're not going to say it, but smash that like button. Show support for this.
Thank you, man.
Content.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
All right. So Lawrence is out, and producer Kendall finally decides he wants to come back and rejoin.
Hey,
us.
whoa.
Getting a little too big for his britches. You know, he's over on Nap Nose Buffalo doing the film.
I just came from
doing
practice.
the film room, doing the BF writers room, drinking an alcoholic beverage underage.
Here we go.
Kendall is doing it all, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man, it's great to be back.
I'm a middle-aged dad, so I'm drinking Diet Coke. That's like the rule. You have to.
You gotta be ready. You gotta be ready. You know, any chance there may be a falling baby, you gotta catch it. You gotta have that dexterity.
Our power's out right now, so
using big words. Using big words.
Pitch black.
Don't come at me, Judge.
Talk about Tremaine Edmunds a little bit, because I know you want to get some Colin Coward's. Colin Coward says Kendall's a backwards hat kind of guy.
That was so funny. I like that.
Good.
Thank you, John. That was like a big.
Is Tony Romo the ultimate backwards hat guy? I mean, he was kind of the original, wasn't he?
I guess. I don't know. It's just funny that it's criteria for evaluation. It's just a hat.
We want you to talk about Tremaine Edmunds a little bit, because you have some takes and some thoughts on Tremaine Edmunds. And while you are talking about Tremaine Edmunds, ladies and gentlemen, get any last second comments, questions, takes, whatever you want to get in, get it on in. But while Kendall's talking about Tremaine Edmunds, you can get whatever you guys want to off your chest in the comments section, and we'll close out the show with whatever you guys want to talk about. So, Kendall, what are your thoughts on Tremaine Edmunds?
So before I get into it, what did you guys say about Tremaine Edmunds? Because I didn't get to catch the first half. I want to just make sure I'm not overlapping too hard.
So here's a question I want to ask you. If there's any player on this defense that needs to take a Josh Alleninian, I think we got it. A Josh Alleninian type of step, are you going with Ed Oliver or are you going with Tremaine Edmunds? Who's more important to this defense's success?
I'd say it's got to be Tremaine Edmunds that would need to take a bigger step. And everyone knows, like, I'm the Edmunds stan of probably maybe BF. I don't want to like take that on myself, but I'm the Edmunds stan. Like, yeah, but he still needs to be better. Oliver has been disappointing relative to his draft position. Obviously, a top 10 pick. You'd like to see more from him, but he's been good. He has been good. There's obviously room for improvement, as there is with Edmunds, but Edmunds is the leader of this defense. He is the middle linebacker. He calls the plays. He makes sure that everyone in front of him, you know, second level and first level, are in the right spots and making sure that they have the right assignments. So I think Edmunds has more room to grow than Oliver does, and that's probably why I'm answering with Edmunds. It's not that Edmunds is the worst player and he needs... There's also just what it comes down to is the positional value. And I mean, Edmunds is obviously one of the most important positions, playing Mike linebacker. But then you look at Oliver and it's like, yeah, it's a very important position, playing that 3-tech role, being disruptive on the interior of the defensive line. But we have a bunch of guys that could fill in for him if he doesn't do well. Obviously, we all want Ed Oliver to reach his full potential, but even if he comes short of that, like, you're not rotating linebackers like you're rotating defensive line. You're just not. You're not rotating your defensive line or your linebacking crew. Like, Milano and Edmunds need to play tip-top form all the time for this defense to play at their top form at all times. So that's why I'm answering Edmunds over Oliver in that specific question.
Yeah, we got Silas Whittle coming in with a great comment. No Edmunds slander allowed before we can evaluate him in front of a full defensive line. That might have been the Bills' thinking this offseason too, because Quinn Jefferson on his way out the door talking mad shit about how he was being misused in Buffalo at the one tech. Ed Oliver talking about how he had to play the one tech. He was a little more cordial about it. No star. The Bills went for length and strength this offseason, whether it's F.A. Obata or it's Gregory Rousseau or it's Carlos Basham, adding some bigger guys, some lengthier, more sturdier defensive ends. So maybe that has to do with it. But Dan Kick coming in saying you can't improve instincts.
Oh, you can. Instincts are like, obviously there's like natural instincts, but then there's coaching. Like, if he gets repetition over and over, like certain situations, McDermott, Frazier, Babbage family, everyone that's working in the linebacking room, like, if you give him certain situations, those instincts will become refined and he won't have to think so much when it comes to, oh, this play is going that way with this kind of concept, this kind of scheme. It'll be more instinctual for him moving forward. Obviously, someone like Tariq Thompson, who we like, you can see his instincts just jump off the screen at you. You're just like, this dude, he's a magnet with the football. Like, he just knows where to be. He understands exactly where he has to be at the right time. And that's kind of where it's like, intrinsic isn't the right word, but it's part of him and it's already built into his game. But that's not to say that it's something that can't be coached up. There's just probably like a threshold that you reach, or like a point where it's like, you can't go further than this. And Edmunds still has, that's experience, not instincts. I suppose, they're not synonymous, but
you could be the best linebacker in football. If the guys in front of you aren't good, you're not going to be. There's only so far instincts will even get you. So even with experience, if the Buffalo Bills put a decent offensive line in front of Edmunds, I still think he's going to be worth the money of whatever we have to pay him.
I think what Donkey Kid is saying is like instincts. I think as their actual definition is something that is a fixed attribute that you have inside of you that is there, and it is what it is inside of you based on your like biology or whatever. I'm not going to get into the science of it, but then the experience and things like muscle memory and reaction time and things like that are affected with repetitions and coaching. So really the combination, I guess, if you want to call it natural instinct or natural talent in combination with the coaching, is what could make you an elite player. And I think you guys are both kind of right. I think there's some, maybe not that killer instinct necessarily with Edmunds, but there's also room for him to grow through coaching and repetition. So, maybe he won't have the ceiling of like an elite all-pro, all-time linebacker, but he could still have the ceiling of a top 5 linebacker in the NFL.
Chris coming in talking about you look like you're in the middle of like a fallout shelter or a bunker here, but
dude, I literally, like, the ring light is the only thing on in my house right now. It's being powered by my computer.
I still think
so. All the lights I had on all around me.
I still think it's absolutely incredible that the year 2021 people, he is literally hot spotting every single thing he's using right now. The mic, the computer, the light.
The mic, the ring light, and my webcam are all being powered by my computer.
Which is being powered by your phone.
That's on battery power. No, that's on battery. It's my laptop's battery power that's powering everything else. And my phone Wi-Fi hotspot is allowing me to connect to the internet. That's it.
Jesus. All right. Well,
Is it really jittery? Like, is it really shaky?
Oh, dude, you look like you're in a fallout shelter. It's hilarious.
The video isn't good. Your audio is coming through fine.
You look like you're coming. You look like you're live in Afghanistan right now.
Like I'm a hostage somewhere.
Yeah. Lauren's coming in saying, good question for Kendall because he assumes that you really looked at Edmunds' film. Does he have a good disengage move to shed blocks?
So he doesn't have like a move that he goes to, but his length, like the natural length that he has, that's what works. And Randy, you're right. Like this is an issue for him. Disengaging from blocks is a real issue from him when you watch him on broadcast, when you watch him on all 22, all of it. Like that is probably something we all wish he could do a little bit more, but it's not like it's bad. It's really not his worst part of his game. Honestly, I think his worst part of his game is that missed tackle, the inconsistency when it comes to tackling. But really, he does have that natural ability to disengage from blockers because he has that length, those long arms, where it's just like if he has a hold on a fullback or a tight end or something like that, he can disengage pretty easily. Where he finds trouble is if like an offensive lineman gets to the second level and gets his hands on him. Sometimes that power is just too much for him, and his length doesn't even come in to be influential at all. So that's where I would say the big issue with him is it's not that he doesn't have a real move. It's that he kind of relies a little bit too much on that length and his natural ability with that length to disengage that way.
All right. So unless there's any more questions or comments in the comment section, that's going to just about do it for tonight. Well, again, thank Lawrence again. We talked about, if you're coming in late, we talked about linebacker. We talked about stadium talk a little bit early. Talked about linebackers. And then we talked about the Colts, did a really nice breakdown of the Colts via Lawrence. So Randy wants to know what the subscription is for your, but before we head out, remember, as always, today's Monday. Tomorrow you can catch the Rico Report. Wednesday you can catch Smoke Break. I think Dave's light just went out. Now it's back on. But every night here on the Buffalo Fanatics, we're live and we got some great podcasts. And this is my last show for a while. So you'll notice no more ring on this finger. I did not get a divorce. I took the ring off because even though me and my wife are officially married, we are doing a ceremony with a small ceremony with family and friends up north, and then I'm going on my honeymoon. So I will be absent for the next 5 shows, but tons of great guest hosts, including Kendall, and Dave will be holding down the fort. Jeff Landers will be in the building. Carlton James will be in the building. Possibly Randy, possibly Chris Janke if they want to get involved as well. So these guys will have you covered while I am taking the next 5 shows off. So I'll be back on July 12th. And that is, of course, if you'll still have me. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Hopefully you don't forget about me by then. I'll be playing, what's that song from Breakfast Club? Don't You Forget About Me. I'll just be posting that on, I'll be posting that on Twitter every day. That's my only tweet every day. It'll be that and Judd Nelson with the fist bump. But
I have to ask, does Kendall know what Breakfast Club is?
Oh, I know what it is. I actually watched it in high school. That was like a creative writing movie or something like that. I don't know. It was some sort of English class. We had to watch it in high school.
Little John Hughes action. But Silas Whittle coming in with one last super chat. And he says, who gets cut from the wide receiver room? I'm going with Marquez Stevenson. I'm going with Marquez. I think Isaiah Hodgins has done enough. I think that McKenzie will lock down the kick and punt return to start. And I think that Stevenson is probably a guy that can sneak onto the practice squad. So I'm going to go with Marquez Stevenson. What do you guys think?
In my heart, I don't want it to be him, but I think it is going to be him. And the only way I think it's not going to be him is if he absolutely lights it up in the return game and camp and maybe in the preseason. Otherwise, I think you're probably right, and they're going to try to sneak him on the practice squad.
Yeah, I agree with both of everything what you two just said. I'll echo also what you tweeted today, Judge, asking if we're overvaluing all these depth pieces on the Buffalo Bills, and I think we are. I think more likely than not, most of these guys, at least the majority of these guys, we will be able to sneak onto the practice squad, and I think Stevenson might be one of those guys. He's probably one of more of the fringe guys, but he might be one of those guys. So. Yeah, like you said, Tilt, unless he can really wow us in the return game, he's right now the guy with the uphill battle.
All right, so got a couple questions before we go. Mr. Jake's coming in saying tattoo talk. Steve Wetzel asking if I got it. I do not have the J17 tattoo yet. I'm not being a sissy. I promise I will get it probably this preseason. I'm planning on getting. Yes, I do owe you a tattoo. I'm getting to it. Listen, first of all, I've never gotten a tattoo before, so I just don't even know how the process works. Like, but I do plan on late this summer getting a tattoo on my arm. And when I do get the tattoo on my arm, I will get JA17 in the smallest font possible on my ass cheek. So I don't know if there will be photographic evidence because of where it's located on my body. But I will be
zoom in far enough. We won't.
No one will know.
Yeah.
No one will know.
I will, and I also will be probably sitting funny for a few episodes. So, but yeah, so I trust me, I'm still getting it. I'm a man of my word. It's easy. You go to a tat shop and you pay. I don't know, man. My body is a blank canvas. It is a blank canvas. I don't know how this stuff works. I'm barely an adult. I barely pay my taxes properly. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that'll just about do it. Apparently, the Lightning are like curb stomping the Islanders right now, so that's interesting. Get it from a guy in a trailer, man. I'll just there's a guy on the side of there's a guy down the street from me that does it for like sandwiches from the gas station.
Stick and poke. Get a little stick and poke.
Dawn's calling me out. Even she has tattoos. I'm good. I'm getting there. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Until July 12th for me, I bid you adieu. Go Bills. And until next time for Tilt Money and Kendall Mirsky, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
I'm going to remember to put on the outro song this time, even though it's not as smooth because there's no Go Bills. So go Bills.